introduce our second speaker for today, who's Yamil Amonte, who is a double major in the philosophy department and the English department. She will be presenting a paper entitled A Warning to Women, Time Through Literature.
So I'll be primarily speaking through feminism or about feminism. And something I noticed that when we hear about feminism, we're all a little bit wary and scared of what the other person might say because we find that my idea of feminism and their idea of feminism, they don't really meet. And it's not because they're wrong or you're wrong. It's usually because they apply it in different ways. And as an overall structure, the application of feminism is so different and it's so nuanced that we're kind of even at the point that we're scared to say we're feminists, because I can say I'm a feminist, but if I say one thing, I'm suddenly not. And feminism is not real. It's not like a Mean Girls movie where if I don't wear a pink hat, I'm suddenly not a feminist or anything like that. It's not, though that's what most people think about when they hear about feminism. So my focus is on the predominant theme concerning both modern and historical feminist writings, and which I find that a lot of times we're warning women that they have to take certain steps or something bad is going to happen, or something's bad going to happen and this is how you should react. Now, writings by both men and women do come with this blatant warning. It's all over. You read Henrik Ibsen's, Jamaica Kincaid, Maxine Hodgkinson, they all focus on this warning. They all talk about it. Henrik Ibsen talks about the consequences, and so does Maxine Hodgkinson. They both do this in No Name Women. And then also, when we look at feminist writers like Jamaica Kincaid, she focuses on what we teach women as children. So from childhood to adulthood, what we teach. And I find that when we look at literature through these feminist lenses, we kind of tend to pat ourselves on the back and say, yeah, we've come so far. We don't do that anymore. We don't make them marry. We let them go to school and vote. We're amazing. That's usually what we do, especially as an English major, I'm women's lit. We're all like, yeah, so far away. No, that doesn't happen. But it kind of does in a different way. It's all, again, about the application of feminism. So it's like we go to school and we've gone from kindergarten to 6th, 7th grade, it's all good. And suddenly your shoulders can't show. You can't show shoulders. Those are shorts? No, that's promiscuity. You can't wear that. And now we're teaching women that they have to hide themselves physically, emotionally, to the point where it's like that young girl is never going to know who she truly is because she's been told for so long that she can't be who she's supposed to be because she has to think about the world around her. This is not her world. She's just living in it, and she just has to react to what other people say. Now, young women are raised to believe that loss is an inevitability. That by following certain steps, again, the shorts, not wearing tank tops, they might avoid or curb some of the loss they're going to feel, but eventually it's going to happen. And so we're, again, hiding ourselves. They're hiding themselves, their bodies, their minds, and eventually they start to focus on their lack of possibilities. Now, this takes us to the feminist writers I've spoken about and that we've heard about in women's history and literature. Now, we look at writers like Jamaica Kincaid to look at how feminism has moved through time and culture and this multi-generational perspectives, and we're like, yeah, it's all moved forward. It's great. It's not really, but yeah. So how can we say that we've moved so far when we're still nodding our heads at the familiarity at the events that took place over 50 years ago? Because I could sit in English class listening to Jamaica Kincaid and we'll be like, yeah, I've heard this before, but we've come so far, so why are you still hearing this is the question. So to focus on a particular reading, Jamaica Kincaid wrote Girl, and it's this poem about this young girl listening to the advice her mother gives her, and it's great stuff. It's don't burn rice. This is how you iron clothes. This is how you wash them so you don't end up with bleach stains. And above all else, this is the most blatant warning she's given, you must not be a slut. Which is kind of crazy because this little girl's 8 years old and she's already been told she can't be a slut. She doesn't even know what that is. She really doesn't. So I believe that this warning comes as a disservice to women. It implicitly teaches them that they are objects, that their needs will always be an afterthought. But truly, what is wrong with being a slut? Why can't women just enjoy themselves and their lives however they wish to? Or are we supposed to be comfortable living on this pedestal that comes from having good morals? Or do we get a prize at the end? What is the prize? Oh, a husband. That's not a prize. I'm sorry. It could be, I guess, one day, maybe. But it's not truly a prize. It's just they're telling us this is our value. This is how we're going to measure it. So moving forward to feminist writer and philosopher Anne Ferguson, she further explores that thin line between the objectification of women's body in Daring to Be Good, essays in Feminist Ethical Politics, in which she says that the properly feminine body exhibits a specific repertoire of gestures, postures, and movements. This body must learn to display its charms, but discreetly. The properly feminine woman must never allow herself to sprawl into the available space. She must avoid the looseness and body comportment that is the mark of a loose woman. In its regard to its size and various parts, the properly feminine body must remain within its appropriate parameters, and it must display itself, again, with the proper parameters as an ornamented surface. That's great. I mean, ornamented surface. Does that mean I shine? I hope that does. So, what is the properly feminine body? It seems kind of strict, seems kind of stiff. And I guess in that sense, we have moved forward because a woman these days has no problem throwing herself on the couch after she gets home. But still, sounds kind of familiar. You have to just learn to display your charms, but discreetly. No shorts, I guess. Sorry. So women's literature has worked to document the feminist movement through years. And as you begin to look at it, you see steady progression in the beginning, and now we've kind of jumped. We're back and forth, and we've kind of moved from one extreme to another. But this is to be expected in modern society, where we're always just living in constant reaction to whatever happens next. And within this extremism, we see the emergence of the idea that women we can do it all, we can be it all, and we're expected to do it perfectly. So there are the paths that women are expected to take today that are still not too different from the paths expected of our mothers and our grandmothers. So whereas our mothers and grandmothers were get married, have children, do a good job at home, we're now, okay, so go to school, get a job, get married, children, preferably all within 4 to 5 years. And if you can't, well, that's okay, I guess, but you better do it eventually, because the CEO is never seen as successful until she has a child or a husband for some reason. So we've kind of just added a few extra steps, a few extra responsibilities that women have to embark, and they can never just drop that ball, drop a load, even if it's a husband or children or even just working maybe. It's always something. They always have to be in constant action, constantly moving, constantly satisfying somebody else instead of themselves. So in a reaction to this idea of feminism and motherhood, we now see the extremism or the extreme reaction to that is the new hoe culture or thought culture, where it's like, well, okay, you say we have to be mothers and we have to be professionals. We're not going to do that anymore. We're going to go and just live our lives and do whatever we want, and you can call us sluts and we're going to be okay with it. And that's great to a certain degree, because we're still being shamed. We're still shaming each other for this. We're still looking at each other, looking down on the woman that decides to get a job, looking down at the woman that decides to stay home. So it's, again, the application of feminism and how it's become so rigid and so structured that you're either on one side or the other, and you're wrong or they're wrong, but nobody's ever right. And so to combat the idea of hoe culture, we're going back to motherhood, and we're going to put that motherhood, again, above all else, above the working woman, above the hoe. And so the mother, she's going to dress conservatively. She's going to go to work, and then she's going to go home and take care of the children and make dinner and guess make her husband a cocktail, because he's had such a rough day. And and she's always going to be that new image of purity, even though she's technically not pure, until she gets divorced. And now she's going to go back and she's going to be on that whole side because she got divorced and now she's awful. She's just the worst. So, and again, that line between the two is so thin that, like, we see where feminism has been adjusted and has been used to keep, instead of being this thing that's supposed to liberate women and let them, like, fly their wings, it's now being used to keep them in line and keep them subordinate while giving them the illusion of freedom. So there, again, it's inherently nothing wrong with feminism. It's great. It's just how it's applied to you, and it's, again, just we're going to support women in everything that they do, but we're not doing that anymore. We've changed its application, and it's used as a weapon now. So we can warn our daughters not to be sluts, but what does it matter if the minute they get married and go to work, they're still going to be judged? And the best thing is, like, the best solution right now for us is to give feminism humanity and allow the women to, to wear makeup if she chooses to be a virgin, to be a slut, a mother, or employed without doubting where they fit into the scale that is feminism. Thank you.